Hello, everybody, and thanks for joining the Ultima monthly webinar. My name's Ian Gerard. I'm one of the Microsoft licensing consultants here for Ultima, and you can find my contact details up there on screen. Like I say, thanks very much for joining the webinar. As always, this will be recorded with the slides and the recording made available afterwards, as well as all previous months as well. On today's agenda, we will be looking again similarly at the latest news and updates from Microsoft, specifically around Office 365 and some of the changes and new additions coming up there. I do like to address some of the hot topics over the last 4 to 5 weeks since the last webinar, and certainly elements such as the Skype for Business to Teams migration, the home use program. These issues are coming up more and more, so I will also be covering them off. Like I say, this is going to be at a relatively high level. So if there's some specific questions that you do have for your own organization, then we will be able to cover them off directly. So please don't hesitate to contact me directly, or your account manager, or your aligned licensing specialist, just so we can make sure that the relevance are specific to yourself, because everyone's going to interpret these differently. So what I'm going to attempt to do is cover them all off at a high level, go into a certain level of detail, and then please contact me to or your account managers to learn more or to explore more, because you're all going to have your own unique scenarios. I really wanted to start with some of the Office 365 updates. There have been quite a few, so again, apologies if I'm a bit all over the place with this as other things crop up. But one of the major updates, one of the good things that Microsoft have done relatively recently is their work around My Analytics, which was always kind of previously part of the E5 level of functionality. So that top level of kind of cloud functionality from Microsoft, and it was the application which kind of summarizes how you spend your time at work, and actually is there smarter ways of doing things, is there some meetings that you're doing that could be scheduled closer together due to location, and the timing of your emails and elements such as that. Now, previously, like I say, previously was always with E5, so now all plans that include Exchange Online will include My Analytics too, which is good news. My Analytics isn't something you can kind of buy as an individual component. It's always kind of part of that suite, but there is a lot of value there. And so this, but literally any plan that includes Exchange Online, going right the way down to Business Premium, Business Premium being those license, that suite for those users under 300 users, right the way up to kind of Microsoft 365, and so on and so forth, including F1 and E1, E3. So that's a good piece of news. In regards to actual new products, we've also got some new add-ons being introduced by Microsoft into their kind of Office 365 offers. So I will attempt to cover this off. This is probably potentially going to generate more questions than it answers. But effectively, what Microsoft have done is they have, you've, as an organization, you're looking at Office 365 E3, you might be looking at Office 365 E5. Whereas E3 includes things like Office Professional Plus, Exchange, Skype for Business, SharePoint, OneDrive, all of these great productivity tools. Microsoft aren't seeing a huge adoption of the E5 layer of functionality, that next layer of functionality. Actually, the advice usually is, if you are investing fully in the Microsoft security stack and actually want to do full telephony with perhaps some Power BI, then absolutely E5 really shows some great value. Otherwise, it's kind of double the price, and customers are rightly kind of questioning the value of the overall suite. So what a lot of people tend to do is buy the individual components. It's, well, actually, I'm kind of interested in E5, but what I'm really interested in is telephony with Skype for Business. So then you can just buy the individual components for audio conferencing or for phone system. There might, I'm just interested in Power BI, so you would just buy the individual components for Power BI. So Microsoft's attempt to, and very long-winded apologies, Microsoft's attempt to push the E5 layer is to add in more complexity, is to offer some more add-ons and to offer some more types of suites. So you've now got something called the Information Protection and Compliance Suite, which is something you would add on top of Office 365 E3. So effectively, when I talk about information protection and compliance, I'm actually talking about Azure Information Protection Plan 2 and a new suite called Advanced Compliance. Again, that information protection plan 2 is where you're going to get some of that auto classification, encryption for your emails, the kind of E5 layout. Well, actually, Microsoft is saying, well, if you can still buy them individually, but actually, look, for about £10 per user, you can buy these two components of E5. And similarly with the next element, which is the identity and threat protection, well, actually, this is every other, where it's Windows Defender, Advanced Threat Protection, Office 365, Advanced Threat Protection, Active Directory Premium Plan 2. So it's basically every other individual component within the E5 suite that offers some kind of security or threat protection, identity, security, threat protection. And they've bundled that up in a new add-on, as a new suite. So effectively, we were seeing previously organizations saying, well, I'm interested in E5, but actually all I'm really interested in is advanced threat protection around Azure and Office 365. So you just buy those individual components. What Microsoft are attempting to say, well, actually, if you look at those individual components, why don't you now look at the full identity and threat protection suite? Because you also get Defender ATP, you get Cloud App Security, as well as Azure Active Directory Premium Plan 2. So more add-ons, more components bundled together, so you kind of get more from your investment. As always, approach this in a very granular way. Let's look at each individual line of technology, make sure technically it's the right product for your organization. What could it replace? Is it worth replacing? Is Microsoft the right direction you want to choose strategically, technically? So the idea being that Microsoft are trying to front load the suite with more value to make that E5, make those steps to E5 a little bit more straightforward. If that's not a contradiction in terms. What this slide shows is, again, I've kind of you'll see that I have stolen this from borrowed this from Microsoft. So you've got dollar pricing and some organizations in there. But effectively, in the background, you've got all the individual components for E5, whether it's Office 365 E5, again, Office 365 being the productivity suite, whether it's EMS E5, again, EMS being that enterprise mobility and security suite, or whether it's Windows E5, which again is just that Windows 10 enterprise desktop license. All three of those have kind of got E5 layers. Already mentioned about customers not seeing the overall value. So if you look at Office 365 E5, that kind of includes advanced threat protection, it includes audio conferencing, it includes Power BI Pro, all the individual components. And as you can see, the identity and threat protection suite attempts to cover all the security features from all three offerings. Similarly, the information protection and compliance covers the compliance individual components from all of the E5 offerings. So you've kind of got a horizontal suite as opposed to a vertical suite. I'm very aware this is a new layer of complexity. It is actually good news. It really is. There's a lot of value here. And it is something which potentially a lot of customers could go for. But right back to that first point, it's key to understand the level of functionality you require. Technically, what's the right solution here? Then get your licensing specialist involved to see how best we can, the cheapest commercial way we can effectively license this. Is it cheaper to go for the individual components? Okay, maybe. Is it cheaper now you've got a couple of the individual components to go for this kind of midway suite, this identity threat protection suite, or this information protection compliance suite? Maybe you even qualify for the full E5. So again, it's for Microsoft, it's a strategic way to get you as an organization to use E5. And for you as a customer, it's great if you can recognize the value in some suites and get some more functionality that you're paying for. So a bit mealy, that explanation, but I hope that was clear. And that is a significant update from Microsoft and something which should be utilized. Should be utilized if possible. And something else which everyone's kind of been speaking about recently, you probably had emails into your inbox regarding the home use program being discontinued. What's going on? The home use program, which is the program which allows organizations with Office Professional Plus and their enterprise agreement for each one of their users to purchase a copy of Office Home and Business for £12.95, so a very large discount. During the course of that enterprise agreement, they buy that, they enter into their own direct agreement with Microsoft as a consumer. It's a great benefit. It's a great piece of PR for the IT team for Microsoft within an organization that has an enterprise agreement. It's one of your software assurance benefits, one of your key software assurance benefits, and Microsoft are ending it on the 30th of June 2019. So those with June renewals, those who have enterprise agreements ending on the 30th of June this year, so you're probably talking and already negotiating your renewal. Please bear in mind, if you previously had Office with software assurance and you were using the home use program, that is not going to be continued for your next term. What it's being replaced with, well, so why Microsoft doing this? They say, well, actually, as organizations move to the cloud, excuse me, you turn that kind of per device license into a per user license. So then each user can effectively say, well, my home PC is one of my kind of 15 devices, so I'm going to install a work copy of Office onto that PC. I know it's absolutely not the same thing, very very different between that and the consumer version, that direct agreement. So it's not fantastic news. Now, if you can still qualify for the home use program in a way. If you have Office with software assurance, you can now at a 30% discount offer Office 365 Home and Business, or similarly, if you're over 2,000 users taking Office 365, then you also qualify for this just 30% discount. So it's different. It's not really the same, but that's what's replacing it. So certainly those with active enterprise agreements, make sure you are forwarding that message to all of your users that you've only really got the next 5 months to secure that copy of Office. This is something that I touched upon last month, but it is probably worth talking about it again, just refreshing it again, because it's something that is still coming up a lot, certainly as organizations are planning the move from kind of an on-premise environment to a Microsoft's cloud environment. There's this idea around something called the From SA license, which if you are previously licensing on-premise and then you move to Office 365, actually that's going to be a cost increase. The cost of a new subscription license when compared with just renewing software assurance, actually the cloud license is more expensive. So what Microsoft offer is say, okay, well, if you're coming from this, just a software assurance only renewal, and now you're looking at an Office 365 renewal, you're thinking, well, that's more expensive. So Microsoft offer this from software assurance discount for the Office 365 license to kind of bring it more in line, which is great. One of the other benefits of this From SA license for Office 365 is that it allowed you to actually, it's 15% cheaper, like I say, but it also allows you to have that download that perpetual copy of Office Professional Plus for that local install offline version, full fat client of Office Professional Plus, which meant that for organizations that were tied to a bespoke application that perhaps used Office 2013 or Office 2016, that meant that actually that migration made that migration from on-premise to the cloud that much more fluid, that much more on a hybrid approach. Microsoft are removing this exception on the 1st of August 2019. So customers will be moved effectively. If you then move to Office 365 Pro Plus, you are going to be on that latest renewal version cycle, every 18 months, potentially ish new version. You can kind of push back on that for 18 to 36 months. But it's definitely worth bearing in mind and having that plan as part of your roadmap. Just being aware about what you can and cannot do and how it will impact those other applications if Microsoft start forcing these upgrades on you. So certainly that's going to be a very relevant conversation from the 1st of August 2019, which is when when they're initially going to remove it in January, has now been pushed out to August. I wouldn't even say that they might push it out again, but let's assume that they're not. So it's something that's going to be a very relevant conversation for those organizations who need to have version control around Office Professional Plus, but want to invest in Microsoft's cloud productivity stack or anything else. There's always options. There's always options, and let's help you explore them. I suppose would be my message on that one. Similarly, with the move from Skype to Business to Teams, it is something where there's getting more and more collateral and more marketing information from Microsoft, which is absolutely great. I think that I think this is more functionality without any kind of increase in price, and actually the licensing is getting a little bit more straightforward as well. I think there is a lot of value as long as the timing is right. Certainly around the Skype for Business, desktop sharing, conferencing, audio conference, the instant messaging and the presence, certainly with the telephony to come as well. So what am I talking about? Skype for Business is effectively merging into Teams. They are becoming the same. It's tricky, right? So Teams is a completely new product, and it's basically a purple banner, purple bucket with all of these other applications from Microsoft within it, whether it's Exchange, whether it's Yammer, whether it's OneDrive, or whether it's Skype for Business. So your Skype for Business client on your desktop becomes a Teams client, but actually all the features, all the functionality, a lot of where the buttons are and the look and interpretability is going to be the same, but it's just going to be called Teams rather than Skype for Business, although it is effectively still Skype for Business running in the background. I suppose the key point is that from the 1st of October last year, we saw that new organizations under 500 users would buy Skype for Business. The license would say Skype for Business. They're buying Skype for Business. The invoice would say Skype for Business. But actually, when they come to download and use that product, it's the Teams branding. It's the Teams branding that they're going to see as opposed to the Skype for Business branding. But again, just to stress, no different licenses required, no change in pricing, no change in licensing model. But there is that move to Teams. So certainly over the next 12 to 18 months, those organizations over 500 users, you are going to be seeing that transition happen. You will still have control over that as far as we're aware. Again, you can use planning services days if there is greater concern, or if you think your users will need more training. We've been working with QA and global knowledge. We've got some in-house stuff as well we can kind of help with. Microsoft are simplifying it. You'd previously have kind of a plan 1 for Skype for Business, which would be instant messaging and presence only, and then there'd be a plan 2, which would then include the desktop sharing and the conferencing functionality. Microsoft, this is actually mid last year, they kind of did away with the plan 1 and effectively said, well, actually, there's going to be Skype for Business. Plan 2 is the standard with the full desktop sharing and the audio conferencing and the instant messaging and the presence. And then the only additional functionality would be whether you want to add the telephony on. And you can still do that as individual components for audio conferencing or for phone system as well. But so for those of you who are sitting there with an Office 365 E3 license, well, you already had that plan 2 level, so exactly the same level of functionality. It's particularly good news for those who are using E1, because E1 previously, kind of the start of 2018, was just Skype for Business Plan 1, just, instant messaging and presence, a few other bits and pieces. Whereas now that E1 license kind of includes Skype for Business Plan 2, which basically means Office 365 E1 users would have seen halfway through or towards the end of last year additional functionality of desktop sharing and internal and external conferencing into as part of the functionality, which is great. Similarly, with the audio conferencing and phone system, additional licenses are always going to be required for those. They're always going to remain separate. You also got call plans. You've also got communication credits, which again stops. This is when we start getting into call plans and allocation of call plans. Something that's asked a lot. The Microsoft call plans are expensive. There's a domestic one. There's an international one. You are given an X number of minutes per month per user, and although these minutes are pooled, are pooled on a monthly basis, every user who wants to use telephony would need to have a call plan. So the minutes are pooled between those who have a license. So if one user is a relatively low user, someone's a relatively high, you can buy on a monthly basis the total number of minutes you need, but you still have to make sure every user who wants to make calls has a call plan. For this reason, and lots of other reasons as well, which you should always look into and do a full project around, of course. It can be relatively expensive. It is expensive, but again, it's always relative. We're very happy to help you out with that as well. I think Skype for Business Teams is very good. Other updates and news include e-learning. So from the 1st of November, e-learning effectively became something called Microsoft Learn. It was then free for all customers. And this is the online learning from Microsoft. And this is the online end user training from Microsoft, half-hour, 40-minute courses that you can learn how to use Exchange or Skype for Business or OneDrive. With the CSP agreement, and the CSP again is this, I suppose, EA is 3 years, MPSA Select Plus was a year, CSP effectively is the monthly way to license. It's far more complex than that, but that's very, very high level. CSP was specific, initially only cloud licenses. We are seeing more and more on-premise licenses come onto the CSP agreement. CSP agreement is still kind of designed for the 250 users and below, though we are seeing more and more use cases, great use cases for larger organizations to use it for various projects or trials or unique business units or separate remote offices. And setting up a remote office, a satellite office in this country, CSP works great. We've now seen some on-premise licenses come onto CSP, and the RDS, with the Remote Desktop Services, was the latest on there. I think you can also get the Windows 10 desktop. We will be seeing others join. You can't get them all on CSP, but we are going to be seeing other licenses join in time. Actually, good news is that Ultima we are launching our all-new singing and dancing CSP portal in a couple of months, again, with all of your billing information on there, all access to the licenses that you have. Really, really simple and quick and easy to use. You're still going to have access to your full team as well. But Ultima are making a significant investment in CSP as well, because it is going to be the future. It's only going to grow and grow. There's going to be specific use cases. EA isn't going anywhere right now or anything, and there's a very good reason why you might be on that, or why you might be on MPSA, or why you might be on Open, why you might be on Direct, or why you might be on an SCE agreement. Millions of agreements, right? There's a lot of value to CSP if it's right for you, and Ultima are certainly investing in it as well. Other updates, Microsoft 365, this all-up SKU for Office and Mobility Suite and Windows. Effectively, it's a single SKU, so it appears in your portal as a single SKU. Simply makes you 60% more efficient by having one click of a button as opposed to 3 to allocate those new licenses to the users. So good news there. Constant updates regarding Azure, more reserved instances now including Linux software, which is great to see. We are seeing Azure still is the only area within Microsoft Business where the prices are coming down in competitive scenarios, and more functionality is being added monthly. I could almost talk about Dynamics as well, another area which is key for Microsoft and the and the work that they're doing there. I think with Dynamics they are kind of honing it a little bit more to see what really their USP is. For example, Microsoft have actually kind of dropped some of the engagement models, some of the social engagement models from Dynamics 365. So I think if you're an existing customer, you can still use them up until expiry. But with Dynamics, we're seeing more of a focusing in on their USPs, and with Azure, it's just more and more coming in and slashing the price. With Office 365 Pro Plus, which is the browser version of the Office client, you can still have the local install and work offline, having to log in every at least 2 to 3 weeks to make sure you're getting the updates. But again, that's just a confirmation that is only going to be supported on Windows 8.1 until January 2023. Similarly, Windows Server up until 25, which seems a long way away. But when you consider all the unique applications you may have, maybe it isn't maybe it's something which should be considered and started to be planned for right now. The next slide is something I'm not going to spend a lot of time on at all, but I just wanted to. These slides are going to be made available. If you are coming up to renewal this year, in the next 6 months, these price increases from the 1st of October are going to impact you. So in case you somehow missed them, please be aware that there was a significant price increase from Microsoft last year. Globally, at least 4% on every single product and agreement, and up to 36% on some of the on-premise software. Microsoft increased the on-premise software to make the cloud licensing appear cheaper. And there are other reasons in regards to leveling out some price levels and making it more simple for you. But please speak to your licensing advisor and your account team during the renewal process, engaging with Microsoft, making sure we're mitigating those price increases as best we can. Or at least you're understanding what more you are getting from what is a significantly larger investment, in some cases up to 20% more expensive. Similarly, we're seeing Microsoft take away some of the per device options with some of the on-premise licensing, with Windows 10 being a prime example, trying to push you towards that per user subscription model. From a licensing point of view, from the previous slide, price increases commercially, this side from a kind of functionality point of view, removing some of the per device options is just to move you towards that per user per month subscription type approach. Similarly, with Office 2019 only being released as a click to run copy, so that again, that's something else which needs to be strongly considered. Not compatible with Windows 7, as I previously mentioned. We know that it's coming towards, and then even with Windows 8 in 2023, I'm very aware that's still 4 years away. But other releases, other releases such as Visio and Windows Server as well, looking to do so. Visio and Project looking to do similar things with that Office license. There has been some update from Microsoft in regards to how you can buy Azure. Microsoft from March are releasing a new agreement called the Microsoft Customer Agreement, initially very localized to service those customers who have Azure only server and cloud enrollments, SE enrollments. So this is quite a unique thing, but why have we included this? But this is kind of an indication of Microsoft's new commerce platform of where they want to get. So effectively, this Microsoft customer agreement is going to be an evergreen agreement, starting off with just this Azure only scenarios. But I think we can see that being expanded further in the future, because this next slide kind of shows where Microsoft are heading over time, and it is a little complicated, but effectively on the left hand side you can see all these various agreement offerings, whether it's CSP, MPSA, Select, Enterprise Agreement. Some of them are filtered through an LSP, some of them are filtered through DISTI, some of them are done directly, for example WebDirect. What Microsoft want to get to over time, over a long period of time, is a common catalog. So when you as a customer look at a price, whether it's on a website for Office, it's the same price that you would initially see under every other Microsoft program. And then, you'll then start seeing some programmatic discounts with CSP, with EA. But you're going to have this overarching single agreement, and then with various Microsoft-led, partner-led, or even direct offerings to the customer. But that's where they're going over time. We are looking really over time, and certainly on the introduction of this Microsoft customer agreement in March this year is the process for this, and we're talking 5 years plus. Maybe it will be accelerated. You honestly can't tell, so a large caveat with that, but that's where Microsoft are kind of going. But what does this mean for the future? Microsoft's enterprise agreements are not going to be going anywhere. They're still probably the correct agreement, certainly for organizations, enterprise organizations, large-scale organizations, 500 users plus, 1,000 users plus. With the CSP in time picking up some of the slack, but like I say, it still can't do the on-premise licensing. So MPSA and OpenStack has a significant role to play. The server and cloud enrollment, we still separate things like Azure and your data center licensing and your SQL licensing, because it's managing the best way of doing it, commercially the cheapest way of doing it, benefits, it's got the most value add, complexity is one of the more simpler ones. So there's a reason why organizations have all of these agreements, very good reason why, and part of our job is to make sure we analyze and provide the right advice. What I'm saying is that in the future, you are going to see a filtering down of these options. Yeah, as CSP grows and you can do more with it, and as perhaps enterprise agreements become even more attractive, more flexible. As at a high level where we are at the moment, what does this mean? CSP is for the one users, if you like. You don't have to have any minimum. You can start with just one license. With the A, you have to have at least 500. Like I say, with CSP, mainly cloud products, a few on-premise ones we're seeing to come on there. We'll see those slowly filter through all of 2019. But with EA, all products are offered, all step-ons, add-ons, this, that, and the other, everything you can do on EA. On CSP, you can't provision that yourself. Obviously, with the EA, you can go on and reserve those licenses and actually engage with that portal. With CSP, that billing is upfront, monthly, can be done annually as well. Whereas EA, it's always that annual pricing, generally with true ups and everything like that. With CSP, you can add a license at any time, and you get invoiced at the start of the next month, and then the following month you can take it up. So monthly, increase, decrease, a lot of flexibility, but more management because it's a monthly thing, right? On EA, yeah, you can still add them at any time. All the pricing is locked, but all of that pricing and payment, that invoicing can be delayed until anniversary for that predictable, consistent engagement. And again, like I say, CSP, you can reduce licenses at any time, whereas on EA, you can only reduce at anniversary, and then you can never go below your baseline, really. So if you sign up with 1,000 users on an EA, and then you increase to 1,400 during year one, at the end of year one, as long as you haven't already paid for those 1,400, you can bring that back down. You can't go down below that 1,000 user, that number you signed on at the start of the agreement. With CSP, there's no discount or price tiering, and with EA, as we know, there's plenty of discounts available. There's price tiering at 500, 2,400, 6,000, and 15,000 users. No customization of the use rights with CSP at the moment, whereas there's full customization with EA, profiling of users, financial amendment right, the PR clause, the millions of others as well. Millions of others may be an exaggeration. Tens of others. With CSP, it is governed by the online servicing terms, absolutely, and the product terms document, which is absolutely the same. With the enterprise agreement, it's governed by those overarching online service terms and the online product and the product terms documents. Please let us know if you would like a copy of them. So that brings the webinar to an end, and thank you very much for your time. Do you have any questions, please? Oh, I can see there has been some questions. So, a very small box to see this. Will it be possible to have access to the recording and the slides afterwards, please? Yes, absolutely. Yes, and the recording of this will be published as well as all my previous months are going to be available. So please let me know, or please let your account director know, or come to me directly. The details are kind of up there, or your account team. And we'll be happy to share them with you. Okay, great. Well, thanks very much for your time, and see you next month, I guess. Bye.